Alrighty, welcome back to the third episode of Talk Small Business to Me. Today we are welcoming the amazing Kirsty from Candle Business Coach, talking all things her journey with mentorship and all that fun stuff. So super excited for this episode. Stay tuned. Let us know what you want to hear. We'll see you soon. Amazing. Welcome back to the third episode of Talk Small Business to Me. We are welcoming the amazing Kirsty from Candle Business Coach. Super exciting. How are you feeling about today?
Very excited. I'm just so happy to be here and to be part of the podcast because as you know, I've had Nicole on my podcast before and I just love you guys so much. So to be involved in your podcast is a true joy. So thank you for having me.
No, of course. And you're just a wealth of knowledge. So I'm super excited. And we've got a lot of people excited as well. We're just going to jump right in. I reckon there's no reason for delay. I think there's no better way to start than a bit about your story. So how did the Candle Business Coach evolve?
Yeah, sure. So it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but it was a few years now where I had that moment where I thought, I want more for my life. I don't want to just be a mum or just be a partner or just be an employee. I wanted something for myself. So I started to think about what I wanted to do with my life. And I thought, well, what brings me the most joy? And the first thing that popped into my head was candles. So I thought, well, I love candles. Why don't I learn how to make them? So that sort of began the journey of how I was involved or how I became involved with making candles, selling candles, and having a candle business. And then as my journey went on, I realized that there were so many people in the Facebook groups that were asking similar questions and were needing similar types of support. And I thought to myself, why isn't there someone that is guiding them through in a more, I guess, a more formal capacity in a way that is still quite genuine and very supportive and helpful? And then, of course, the next thought was for me, why don't I become that person? So that's how it all began in terms of becoming the Candle Business Coach. And from there, it's just been a whirlwind the last couple of years of designing a 6-week course that I called Candlecraft that I ran for a couple of rounds and then moved into the podcasting space. Now I have a membership where we have over 30 members in the Candle Makers Collective, which is my beautiful business baby. It's an incredible group of connection, collaboration, community, and resources, guest speakers, coaching calls, all the things. And then, of course, I have my free Facebook group as well. So it's evolving even now. Like as time goes on, more things come into play depending on the needs that I see that candle makers have, because I just genuinely want to help people, and candle makers is where my heart and my passion's at.
Yeah, gorgeous. I think it's so beautiful that you've created the space. And when you look at your presence online, you're very much an advocate for kindness, and which I think is quite beautiful because I think there can be a little bit of toxicity around. But it's beautiful that there's just this stable resource and like group just dedicated to uplifting one another. Um, I'm already going off the questions, but I wanted to ask how you kind of evolved into the podcasting space because I feel like it was something that was very untouched. Yes, there's small business podcasts. Yes, there's advice podcasts and everything like that where there's guests. But how did you find yourself so niched into candle business coaching? Like it's pretty random in a
It
way.
is. It's
Tell us
very,
about that.
it's very specific. It's very on brand and very niche. But again, I just follow the butterflies. I follow what inspires me and I follow what brings me joy. And I'm always anchored in how can I help others? How can I support people on their journey through life? And so when I decided to become the Candle Business Coach and was realizing that there was so many people asking the same sort of questions in the Facebook groups, just honestly the next thought was, well, if I have a podcast, then people can get the resources they need from one source rather than feeling lost and unsure and uncertain and having to go down all these rabbit holes of information on the internet. So I basically just started my own research. What microphone do I need? What software do I need? How do I record interviews? How do I do solo episodes? How do I find guests? And it just kind of snowballed from there. And now we're up to, I think we released today episode 127. So it's been going for a little while now. So it's been so much fun chatting with different candle makers. And what's interesting, and you'll know in time with this podcast as well, is that when you record an episode, you know, you're in the moment and it's recorded and it's put out into the world. But then months later, people will then be discovering those episodes. So you'll get messages from people saying, I've just listened to episode number 1, or I've just listened to episode number 2. But in your mind, you're up to episode, 10, 20, 30, 50. So it's so nice that you can create something that will have that longevity on the internet that people can search for and find and then get the support that they need. So it's just another one of my business babies is the podcast, and having that as a permanent resource for candle makers, which is so specific. So the fact that anyone even thinks, all right, I'm a candle maker and I want to get information, I'm going to go check and see if there's any podcasts. And that's where most of my listeners have come from, is just them wanting to find information, and the information is now there for them to find.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like it is so podcasts are designed a lot of the time either for entertainment or very like informative. People are wanting to absorb information and just go about their lives. And something where it's like, okay, I can just put this podcast on. Like, let's listen to someone that's got a little bit more wisdom on it, or someone's along the journey with me, because it is a journey at the end of the day. And just do my thing, and you can just go along and do it. And it's just not that extra amount of time that it's taking to do that. So I think that's quite a beautiful venture. So obviously you've expanded into like different facets of Candle Business Coach, as we are aware. So what are the most common issues? So you were saying that people were asking all the same questions on these forums and everything like that. So you just created this one platform. So what are the most common issues or questions that candle makers seek your advice on? What are people asking?
Yeah. So first and foremost is how to make a safe and, quote unquote, perfect candle. So it definitely starts off with the logistics or the mechanics of, all right, I've got my ingredients, I've got my supplies, I've mixed them together and I haven't got the result that I'm looking for. Either it's not a smooth top, I'm not getting a strong scent throw, or it just doesn't, it's just not performing as it should. Like the flame might be too big, or the candle is tunneling, and just normal common candle making issues, that once you know how to troubleshoot them, you then move on to the next stage of the business, is how do I sell my candles? So the first part is definitely how to make a perfect, safe candle. The second part is how do I sell my candles to my ideal customers? And then the third part, and this is where I'm really in my element, is that it's the mindset piece. Okay, I haven't sold the candles, but I've made beautiful candles, and now I'm feeling down and I'm not feeling motivated in my business, and I'm considering stopping my journey, or I just don't feel like I've got the momentum that I need to get into consistent sales and grow my business and reach my dreams and goals. So it comes across in those sort of three veins, and depending on where the candle maker is in their journey, it will depend on where they best fit in with the different episodes on the podcast, or if it's private coaching thereafter, or if it's joining the group for that community and connection with other candle makers and other small business owners.
Yeah, awesome. And you talk about, because obviously you come from the history of like candle making and everything like that. That's why you relate so much. So you talk about procrastination impacting your journey as a candle maker. Can you elaborate on the impact that that's had and how even transferable that is to other people you mentor?
Yeah, of course. So when you feel in that place or that space of procrastination, you're very much pushing your goals and dreams further into the future. And when you're in that space of, I don't feel like I'm going to reach my goals, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy of, I'm not going to take inspired action or any action. Therefore, my goals and dreams and my visions for my future are so far away from me that it just doesn't feel tangible. And you just get stuck in this moment of, or not just moment, but like this period of, well, I'll just go watch TV instead because I'd rather pacify myself with that rather than actually facing what I'm experiencing and working through my mindset struggles. So when you're feeling like when you're procrastinating, you're finding other things to do, you're keeping yourself busy rather than actually taking the right type of actions in your business to actually move the needle in your business. So, and it's interesting because I send, so I have a daily motivation email that I send out to people on my email list if they choose to opt in. And I send it to myself as well. And the reason I do that is because I sometimes procrastinate and I sometimes feel lack of motivation. But knowing that my goals and dreams are more important than the fears I have around them and the fears of I'm not going to make it, therefore I don't believe in myself, I don't feel worthy, I don't have that self belief. It's very much helping other people see that if you procrastinate, you're not going to move forward in your life. And I believe truly that everyone is made for more. So working on your mindset struggles and working through the procrastination and working through any other challenges and hurdles that come up means that you extend your boundaries, extend your comfort zone, you try new things. And then when you try new things, you prove to yourself that you can do it. And it builds up that motivation, it builds up momentum, which is so exciting to see when I'm coaching candle makers and I see those light bulb moments going off and those aha moments. And it's just so reassuring that we're all worthy of moving forward in our journey. We just have to get out of our own way.
Yeah, and self-belief is massive. And overall, small business owners, there's generally this, it's not their only venture. So I always call them like little ventures. So lots of people are working full-time. They have a family. They have all these sort of things that are in their pockets or that are like live in action. So there's that aspect of that procrastination because there's so many other things going on that you just want to sideline it. It's okay, I'll come back to this because it's not my level of priority right now. Do you think that separating the priorities of it is massive in the development of the people seeing their business succeed, or do you think it's just a matter of just like that mindset of like you can do it, or what do you think? What is your opinion on that?
Definitely both. So you need to know what your why is. You need to know what your goals are and why you're actually doing it in the first place. It is so easy. Well, I say easy, but it is so much easier to have a job that you go to, you do your hours, you get paid, you come home, you switch off. When you have a small business, when you have an idea to grow something from the ground up, you're going to have, you need to invest time and resources into that. So that means it could be early mornings, it could be late nights, it could be, and most likely is both. It means putting the phone down and doing research on your business idea or on your actual, how to actually make the products that you're creating, whether it's candles or whether it's something else. You need to prioritize it if you want it to become more than just a dream in your mind. But your goals might not be to take over the world with your business or have it as your full-time income. It might just be, I want to have this as a part-time, bringing in a little bit of money so that our family can go on a holiday or something else. So you need to know what your why is. You need to be focused on prioritizing the time, effort, money, yes, resources that go into creating something. But it really depends on what your goals are. And some people want to stay in the hobby stage. And that's this is, again, candle making or otherwise. And that's totally fine. It really depends on what you want for your journey. And you need to get clarity around that, because if you're fumbling along and not quite sure about the reasons why you're doing it, that's when procrastination will rear its head. That's when imposter syndrome will show up, because there's no clarity around why you're doing what you're doing and what you actually want out of your journey.
100%. And we see as well that that's like the small business is someone's baby. Like they've watched that grow, they've watched that develop. And if you don't understand not only your why, but what you want to achieve with it, there's no moving forward with it, because you're just like, you're in this stagnant state. And that's where, like you said, there's that procrastination comes into the picture, imposter syndrome comes into the picture, because you don't have an awareness to the why or who you are as a business owner, or even just who are your candles or anything like that. I think
Yes.
that's quite beautiful what you said. Yeah, you go. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say, like, it's so interesting because I speak to different candle makers every day because it's my business baby as well. And depending on where they are in the journey, whether they're a new candle maker, whether they're a couple of years in, whether they're a decade in, everyone is still having challenges. Everyone still has hurdles to overcome, and that's both personally and in their business. And there's this saying that I love that's called new level, new devil. And it's very much that you're not going to get to the next stage of your journey and suddenly everything's all rainbows and unicorns. It will be in some parts, but there will always be something that your mind is trying to keep you safe from. So that might be, all right, I'm getting great online sales, which is a huge achievement in itself, getting consistent sales online, especially with a product like candles where it's a very tangible product and people can't smell or touch or experience your candles. But if you are able to work on, okay, what do I need to do next? All right, I'm getting great sales online. I need to, or I want to move into the market scene. But if you're not then taking your action to research different markets, apply for different markets, buy the equipment needed to have a stall, then that's going to halt your business and it's going to limit your growth. So it doesn't really matter what your goals are for your business. And again, no matter what business you have, but if you've got a vision for your future and you know what you want, the path to get there becomes so much more clearer when you have that clarity. And I'm a huge fan of journaling. I always recommend journaling to the candle makers I speak to when they say, I don't know what to do about this, or I'm struggling with that, and how do I do that? And I'll say, just sit down and be in your thoughts, uninterrupted, no phone, no TV, no distraction, no kids, just in your own mind for 5 minutes, even 10 minutes, half an hour is even better. Because if it gives you a chance to write down how you're actually feeling and thinking and what you are experiencing in your mind, it will allow more fresh thoughts to come in, and it'll give you, again, that clarity to go, okay, I'm actually not as bad a position as I thought it was. It was just those thoughts were just ruminating in my mind. So, yeah, I love journaling. I think it's really important to sit with yourself and figure out what you want and where you want to go. And that can be really hard for some people. It's so much easier to, again, pull out the phone or watch TV and distract yourself or pacify yourself with things that aren't even related to the business. But if you're dedicated for growing your business, you know what you want, you know where you want to go, opportunities come out of nowhere. And that's when you are more likely to take inspired action because you're in that level or that vibration of, I'm open to receiving, I'm excited to take action, I'll do my part, universe, you do your part, we'll meet in the middle, and then magic happens. And then you create ripple effects, and then that spreads out to other people as well. And the amount of times I have messages from people saying that the podcast has helped them start their journey or has given them motivation, I don't take those comments and those messages lightly because it all started with me taking action, but it's now having an impact on other people's lives, and then their actions will have an impact on other people's lives. So it's truly amazing what you can do when you get out of your own way.
It's all about that initiative, and then it's about like taking all that's going on in your brain, internalizing it, and then just releasing it. Because otherwise, there's no moving forward because you just haven't processed it. And yeah, and I think journaling is such a beautiful one because not only is it a good way for goal setting and just like constant like ambition growing, or however you want to word it. That was a funny way to word it. But I think it's a great way to, yeah, just really vision cast for what that looks like in your future, what it looks like personally and as a business, because they're different. They're different spheres of your persona as well. I reckon we'll move on to. I'm really excited for this one, actually. So, what's your controversial opinion or hot take you have about the candle making industry?
Yeah. So this one is going to ruffle some feathers for sure. And that is, I'm not a fan of the crystals and the flowers and the embeds that can't be, that have to be taken out before lighting the candle. People are busy. They don't read candle care cards. not everyone knows to trim wicks. Not everyone knows to take those items out of a candle before burning. So the risk of someone having a bad candle experience, whether that's like an actual fire or just the candle hasn't performed well, is too high of a risk to take. And yes, they look beautiful. I'm not going to lie. They look stunning and they're beautiful to look at. But as candle makers, we've got a huge responsibility to make safe products, to make safe candles that are not going to cause issues with the customer's experience of that candle or their experience with our products. So yes, so my controversial opinion is do not put any crystals or flowers in your candles. Keep them clear, empty, or put in the candle wax embeds that will actually melt with the candle as it lights. So yeah, sorry to everyone that does that, but it's always safety first.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end, like it was actually that was a question part of our rapid fire questions, which are coming up later. Because people want to know. People want to know what people think on it. What is, I guess, preferred? What is all that fun stuff? Because it is controversial. People want pretty candles, and people want to separate their candles from other people. So they're like, oh, what better way than to add these glitter, to add like these crystals. And that's the thing as well. Like it's so important to add the candle care, but in reality, like you've just got to make sure that the candle is up to scratch. There's not going to be that extra harm because the people that you're selling it to, they aren't aware of that as well. So just making it clear as well. But that's really interesting.
I do have another.
This is a little.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I do have another slightly controversial thought. Is that when you're promoting yourself online, like promoting your products online, please don't just have your whole feed filled with "Here's my candle, buy it. Here's my candle, buy it." People don't use social media to be sold to. We want to be entertained. We want to feel connected. We want to feel like it's a fun place to spend our time away from our busy days. So if you want to gain traction on the different social media platforms, and I'm sure we'll touch on this a bit later, it's very much about telling your story, talking about your brand vision and your journey rather than just the products. The products are a small percentage of what you're actually going to be putting on your social media account. Yes, that means doing reels. Yes, that means showing your beautiful face. Yes, that means trying new things and pushing yourself outside your comfort zone because that's the only way that you're going to grow.
Yeah, 100%. Would you, this is kind of like throwing it to the side. Is there anyone that you feel like a candle business that does that exceptionally well?
Yes.
That you've seen?
Yes, very much. I hope she's listening. Well, she will be, I'm sure, because I'll tell her that I've mentioned her in the podcast. Her name is Alicia, and she's from Highland Home Fragrance. So she recently rebranded from Sweet Soy Candle Co., which was, in her words, very much just a general candle brand. Love what she did, like love what she was doing, was having great success, but then reached that point where, and I'm sure she'll tell her story if anyone wants to ask her, where it didn't feel aligned anymore. So she pivoted, she rebranded, and now the candles that she creates, the scents, the fragrances, are very much steeped in her Scottish heritage and the Scottish Highlands. And the way that she weaves her story into each post or each reel, which is still entertaining, still about her journey, and yes, a little bit about the products. She's having great success both on Instagram and TikTok, and she's just ticked over 100 orders. That's for her new brand, which only launched about 5-6 months ago. So she's getting a lot of traction, but she does it in such a genuine, authentic way. And I look forward to seeing her posts. I love seeing her reels. I love hearing and reading whatever she comes up with next. And I think when you start to lean into sharing your journey and sharing who you are, which yes is scary, I'm not going to lie, but once you start the process of sharing who you are and being open and vulnerable to sharing that with other people, that's where the community is, that's where the connection is, and that's where the sales will come from.
For sure. And whether people like it or not, this is coming from the marketing girl here at Aussie. This is my little spiel. But whether you like it or not, the content, like particularly on TikTok, like let's look on TikTok. The content where you're having a bit of fun, it's a little bit entertaining. It's not just like this is my product, buy it. And the ones where you are just being like, okay, this is us. This is our business. Like, we're actually real people. And people are desiring for that human connection. And what we were talking about in the last episode was about human connection. And people are more likely to buy from your business if you ambassador it well. So if you are your biggest advocate and if you represent that human connection, because at the end of the day, you've got a candle product. What separates your business from everyone else there in the market? And a lot of that comes down to who you are and your presence and just that connection that you have with people.
Yes, 100%. Say that again for the people in the back. It's very much about it's so much about connection, but then that goes in, that sort of spills into a whole nother mindset realm of, but what if I feel like I'm too old to show my face on social media? Or what if I don't like how I look today? Do I have to wear makeup? Do I have to do my hair? Do I need to be a certain version of myself to appease or to please certain people? No, 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 no. Just stop, stop. You are worthy as you are, who you are in this moment right now, in the past, in the present, and in the future. If you are able to just share who you are, where you are on your journey, you will inspire those that are behind in their journey, and you can look towards people that are further ahead and be inspired by them. So try not to get caught up in the aesthetics. It's more just be yourself, be genuine, and have fun with it. Because if you're having fun with your business and with your content, and you're showing up consistently, no, that doesn't mean every day, but it definitely means regularly. That's where you build up that know, like, and trust with your followers, potential customers, and then they will become your customers in time.
And it's about return customers as well. Because that's at the end of the day, you want consistent sales. You don't just want one-time buyers. So creating that connection, you get return customers, and that's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. You cannot build a business on first time customers alone. You'd have to, yeah, you can't. You need to be building that tribe around your business and a brand, around your brand, and that means presenting your brand in the best possible light. For candle makers or for any visual business, I would recommend professional photography. It's almost non-negotiable, because if you don't have the lighting, the props, the background, all of those things in absolute cohesion, it's going to impact the appeal of your brand and the look of your brand. So yeah, professional photography is huge. And it doesn't have to be expensive. Like, you just need to do your research and find the right photographer for you. But then it means showing up on your stories and being yourself, and again, showing your face and just sharing about your life and your journey. You just don't know where people are at on their journey and what they're going to connect in with. But if you're only showing your products, you won't get sales, you won't get followers, people will scroll past. And then as you build that tribe, as you build up those connections, people will then think of you and remember you for when they want to purchase that product again. So that's where you build up the more consistent sales. And again, depending on what your goals and dreams are for your business, that will then determine how and where your business goes, and how fast it grows as well.
Yeah, and that's segueing into our next question. Um, I'm interested to hear, what would you say? Like, let's break it down into three categories of your most crucial steps when you're trying to establish any successful candle business. What does that look like?
The product, so the actual candle itself, is huge. You need to make sure you're actually creating a candle that is safe. First and foremost, always has to be safe, and then has to perform well, and perform well consistently. So that means each candle performing well consistently as it burns down, as well as the many candles that you'll be making. So that means a huge amount of time, and I mean a huge amount of time, needs to be invested in the testing, not just here's a jar, here's the recommended wick. I'm going to put them together with some wax and fragrance oil and burn it once. Yep, that worked. Move on to the next one. You need to be doing burns all the way down. When you're doing batches, you need to be testing those as well. Every time you introduce, and this is where I get really passionate, but every time you introduce a different size wick, a different fragrance oil percentage, a different jar, different wax, any of the different variables, every little difference needs to be tested as if it's a brand new candle, because it is. So the product needs to be the first step. So you could be in the product development stage for months, sometimes even years, depending on like how much time, like, if you're doing it once a week or once a fortnight, it's going to push it back how long it takes. But if you're testing consistently, you're making consistently, the process will be a little bit more faster. And then once you've actually got a product or a candle that you're comfortable with, it performs well, it's safe and looks beautiful, especially without those crystals and flowers and, and glitter. It's just the candle. You then need to work on your brand. So that means getting branding done, getting the product photography done. It means working out, the best logo for your business, I call it sort of behind the scenes things, but it's really the things that are going to be seen by your customers in that first touch point when they first come across you. So yes, have a great product, have great branding, and then work on your marketing as well. So decide if you want to be an online or offline or both business in terms of, am I going to sell at markets? Am I going to sell purely online, or am I going to do a combination of both? And once those three elements come together and you're working on evolving and improving and tweaking them all at various points in time, but it is a constant evolution. Once you're working on all of that and getting it to the best that you can possibly do at that point in time, because we know that as you learn more, you grow, and then you'll implement more new things. You need to be constantly working on the business to make it the best it can be. But it definitely starts with having the right product and having it safe and having it performing well, working on the branding, working on the marketing. And if you can nail those 3 points, or, just give it your best red hot go, that's where success will be found. Because if you're working on the business as well as in the business, and you're working on it consistently, and you're doing everything you can to learn about the different elements of your business, you're working on your journaling, you're working on your personal growth journey as well, because personal growth and business growth go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So if you're doing both of those things and all the things I just mentioned, you will find success on your journey. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, and following off that, so what are some like non-negotiable elements to consider when starting a candle business? And you mentioned stuff like branding and product photography and all that sort of stuff. Would you say those, and others expand on that for us?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, definitely what I've mentioned so far. But probably the biggest point is that there's no need to rush. I feel like when I speak to new candle makers, they are so excited about their journey and they see all these visions for what they want for their future, that there's this temptation to try and do everything at once and rush the process to get to the destination. And we've heard that saying before, it's about the journey, not the destination. And it's very much true in business. If you are rushing to get to the next stage, you're more likely to make mistakes. You're more likely to not enjoy the process because you've got this state of stress and overwhelm, and then it becomes so overwhelming that you then procrastinate because it's all too much, and it becomes this cycle. But if you are taking your time and you're doing your research as well, that's a huge part of, before you even make your first candle, before you even buy any candle supplies, even, you need to do research on the market. So what candles do people actually want to buy? Who's your ideal customer? Think about them as, like an avatar, and really focus on getting the research done first. Will make the whole process a lot easier, rather than, I'm going to go register my business name, and then I'm going to go buy a candle making kit, and then I'm going to make one candle, and then I'm going to tell everyone I'm a candle maker. And just take your time. There is no rush. There is time to make it all happen. And moving slow doesn't mean that you're failing. Moving slow means that you're taking things into consideration and being more considerate of making the smartest decisions that you can. And that takes practice, and it takes time, and it takes a lot of discipline. and self-control, because when you're excited and you're in that state of, I want to buy all the fragrance oils and I want to try all the different waxes and buy all the pretty jars, you can end up spending a lot more money than you need to. And then you'll be of the mindset that running a candle business is really expensive, or it's really hard and it's really overwhelming. This, again, that goes for any business. But if you take your time, you do your research, and you move strategically through your journey, it just makes everything a lot more smoother and the process a lot more enjoyable.
Yeah, for sure. And so expanding off that, like what are some of like the biggest hurdles you've seen candle businesses face? And how can they overcome it? What is the steps to overcome some of those hurdles, or just in general, even vague, big,
Yeah,
however you want to word it?
sure. So the biggest hurdle, the very biggest hurdle for not just candle makers in business, but any small business owner, is yourself. So your mindset, how you approach each day, your perspective on your business, that will make or break you long term, which is, I think, like we've talked about that quite a bit so far. But the actual, I guess, tangible hurdles that candle makers experience is consistent sales, making consistent sales, and competition. That's obviously a huge one as well. So that sort of ties in with what I said about research. If you're doing your research and you know, like, depending on where you are in the world or what sort of candles you want to make, you need to know what your competitors are doing, not to copy them, not to be put off by them, but just making yourself aware as to what's already out in the market, and think about what you can bring that is different, and think about how you can be unique. And that unique part is you. That's you. That's, we talked about the brands, like selling your brand and talking about your journey, and including you in your business as you present it to the world. And then when it comes to consistent sales, it's very much just being aware that just because you've launched your website, you're not necessarily going to get hundreds of sales straight away. It takes time, especially when it takes time for to build up those consistent and repeat customers. Not everyone burns candles every day. Hands up if you do. Yes, I love candles. Every day it's burning in my house. Yeah, but that means it's still going to take, a week, 2 weeks, depending on how long you burn for, to actually burn through a candle. So if someone places an order for, say, 2-3 candles, that might be 2 or 3 months before they're even ready to buy again. Meanwhile, you're sitting there going, come on, I've got products, I want to sell them. But that customer there won't actually need to come back to you for a little while. And that's where it's important to have email marketing in place, as well as the social media content, to nurture that relationship in between sales. It's such a huge thing that I'm passionate about, is having an email list and making sure that you've got that connection and you're nurturing that alongside selling. It's not just about the transaction. But just know that it's going to take time to build up consistent sales. Yes, some people knock it out of the gate or knock it out of the park straight away, but for the most part, it's going to be a slow burn, pardon the pun, of building up your business and growing to a stage where it is sustainable and successful, depending on what your definition of success is.
Yeah, and so like depending what, like, obviously, oh my goodness, my brain just blanked for real. Um Success is definitely defined differently.
Yes.
And so how does, let's just kind of make it a very basic sort of tier of success. How can someone stand out as a candle business, and what may be perceived as a very saturated market? Where you've mentioned stuff about like marketing and everything like that. Is that something that's massive in separating someone? Like, what are the tools? What is the next step for someone that's trying to be like, I just want my business to shine?
Mm-hmm. It very much comes down to you as the candle maker, or the person as the business owner. If you can highlight who you are and the value that you bring into the world, your products will, yes, be second, but then people will fall in love with you. They'll want to get to know you. They'll want to get to know you more. They'll have that know, like, and trust, and they'll be more likely to purchase from you. So I don't like using words like, conversions, like, people, converting into customers. It's very much all the sales that I got through my business were based and steeped in connection. So for me, okay, here's like inside strategy about how I do my business. When I have a new follower, I always message them and say, thank you for following me. How was your day? Not everyone responds. That's fine. I'm not worried about that. It's the people that respond, and then you can have that connection with, that conversation, that tangible relationship with them. Then they'll start to tell you more about their journey, and then you can learn about that, and then you can share more about your journey, and you start to form these beautiful friendships rather than here's my candle bite, here's my candle bite. So one thing I would recommend is when you get new followers, is to connect with them. They're following you for a reason. It shouldn't be just this, disconnected follow account and I've got all these followers and how amazing is that? It's about engagement. It's about putting yourself into a place of vulnerability to allow others to do the same. And I think there's a lot of power in that, because when you can show up as yourself, it's like you give permission for other people to do the same thing. And when you start to have those connections, and I've said this before, but that's where the sales come from. People feel like they know you, they like you, they begin to trust you, and then they're more likely to part with their hard-earned cash on one of your products. But I think what's really important is, again, the product photography is huge, and the descriptions that you use on your products, on your website or in your social media posts or in your emails is really crucial as well. So get familiar with writing stories, good copywriting rather, and just put yourself out there a little bit. Try something different. If what you're doing is not working, it's not working for a reason. So try something new, pivot, learn, grow, adapt, evolve. And then when you do that, you'll start to see what's actually working for you in your business. And it's going to look different from the next candle maker and the next candle maker. Yes, it's a saturated industry. I would argue that all industries are saturated, but if you're just making candles and you're trying to sell just candles, and I mean, as in, like, if you're thinking of it purely as this is a product and I want to sell, you're not going to get very far and you won't find success. You need to think strategically, think long term, but take consistent action that's broken down into manageable chunks that will inspire you, motivate you, and connect you in with your purpose.
Yeah, that's real beautiful. That's the end of our main questions. We do have a set of rapid fire though. So, do you think you're ready for it?
Oh, I'm scared. I'm ready. Let's go.
Okay. So, there's just these are a couple of what people asked. How do you achieve a strong hot and cold throw equally?
Oh, that's a great question, and very technical that they want to know that from the Candle Business Coach. First and foremost, you need to be really aware of what wax you're using, what fragrance oil you're using, the percentage of fragrance oil, and the type of vessel that you're in. So if you've got like a tea light candle, you're not going to get a very large or strong hot throw or cold throw because it's such a small candle. So my first recommendation, this is kind of handballing it a little bit, is to speak to your supplier and have a really good relationship with them as well, because they know intimately the wax, the fragrance oil, and hopefully maybe you're buying those supplies from the same supplier so that they can help guide you as to the best way to use it. But it's very much become aware of the temperature that you're melting your wax at, the temperature that you're adding the fragrance oil to, the temperature that you're pouring at, and the temperature of the room. So temperature is a huge factor in getting the most consistent and strongest hot throw and cold throw. Make sure that you're mixing the fragrance oil and the wax together until it binds. So that could be up to 2 minutes, depending on how much wax is in the picture that you're using. I could go on about this forever, and the listeners that aren't candle makers will be like, what is she talking about? But the candle makers will get it. And it comes down to testing as well. So if you've tried different wick sizes, you've tried the different fragrance oil percentage and it's still not working, then go back to your supplier because they'll be able to troubleshoot more specifically.
And so, secondly, do you recommend any additives to a candle?
No, I don't.
Any blends?
No, not necessarily. It's like how some people want to heat up their jars before they pour the wax and fragrance oil in to help it cool down slower, or using like wrapping it in foil to help it again cool down slower. There's all these little tips and tricks and additives and things that you can do. My advice is just to keep it basic, keep it simple, because the more complicated you make it, the harder it is to replicate, and the more likely you're not going to get consistent results. So do everything as minimal, simple, easy as possible, because especially as you start to scale and grow your business, you want to increase production and you want to increase batch, like making batches of candles. And if you've got all these little like rules and conditions and things you need to follow, there's more room for error and it just becomes less enjoyable and more stressful. So yeah, long story short, no, you don't need to add anything in.
Yeah, great. The next one was about, is it okay to add botanicals? But you already answered that.
My opinion has not changed in the last half an hour. Yeah.
No. So what's your opinion on importing candle materials when trying to increase profit margin?
Um, I would worry about the quality and the consistency of the product that you're importing. Not that you can't use like outside Australia products, but we've got lots of great suppliers in our country. And I mean, let me think about that for a second, because technically they'd most likely be getting their supplies from overseas and then you're just buying it from them. But I'm specifically thinking about one supplier in particular, and they're an incredible supplier to deal with. Their customer service is amazing. Their products are incredible, and dealing with them is just another part, like another fun part of the business. And I feel like if you outsource everything to just a transaction online as opposed to like going down to your local supplier and having a connection with them, it can kind of take, I don't know, it kind of makes it just another internet purchase. But if you are in a place where you don't have any local suppliers near you and you're paying, for shipping anyway, and you want to increase your profit margin and decrease costs, I mean, I guess you can try, but I would just be hesitant on the quality and whether that's consistent.
Yeah, for sure. One of our other questions was like, who is your favorite supplier?
I'm totally biased, but my favorite supplier is is Pure Candle Supplies in Churnside Park in Victoria. So Tim, Nicole, and the team there were my supplier when I was making candles. I've since shut my candle making business down to focus on the coaching side in a full-time capacity. But they were and still are incredible at everything they do, and the quality of their supplies, the quality of their customer service is just second to none. They've actually expanded into a new warehouse, so they're growing as well. So if you haven't yet given them a try, certainly contact Tim, Nicole, and the team at Pure Candle Supplies.
And so what is the average startup cost for a candle business? What are they bracing themselves to expect?
Depends how disciplined you are, because when you get excited and you want to buy all the fragrance oils, that's where the costs will go up. Not just the fragrance oils, but the wax, the jars, the wicks, all the different elements. A controversial opinion, but you can start a candle business for less than what you think. And I can't really put a number on it because it really depends on where you are, where you buy your supplies from, and if you've already got some of the equipment at home. But if you're starting off with a double boiler method, you don't need to buy a wax melter straight away. At least, test out the candle making process to see whether you actually like it and want it to become more than just this one thing you did this one weekend. Some people will make these big grand statements and be like, I'm going to make candles and I'm going to put that on social media, and then they haven't actually even made one. And then they try it and they go, wow, this is actually a lot harder than just putting the supplies or the ingredients in a jar and mixing it together and hoping for the best. So there are so many things that you can buy along the way as you need them. So my recommendation is to start off with one wax. If you don't buy a candle making kit, that is, which is still very much recommended. But if you want to move away from the candle making kit and you want to keep costs low, perfect one scent first. So keep it just to one fragrance oil, because then you can try different percentages with that one bottle. Try just one wax, one type of jar, Lids are optional, depending on whether you want to do lids or dust covers or just nothing. That's up to you. And then try a few different wicks. So I'd like to say that you can get started and up and running cheaper than you think, but it can very much become more expensive than you want if you're not disciplined in buying all the things and all the pretty things when you first get started. So just, again, take things slowly. There's no rush and enjoy the process.
Yeah, for sure. And my last of the rapid fire is you did mention one before, but is there any candle companies out there that are killing it in a good way?
Yeah, so definitely there's quite a few that are inspiring and that are, and I'm not talking about the big brands, I'm talking about small business specifically, but that like small businesses that are doing really well. So Alicia from Highland Home Fragrance is a journey and a person to follow. Her stuff's really inspiring. And then I actually had on the podcast a little while ago Ash from Alula Home, and she is just on fire with her business. It's actually incredible to see how big her journey has gotten in a relatively short period of time. And just one thing I want to preface is that everyone comes into their business, whether it's candle making or any business, any small business, with different levels of skills, ability, and experience. So that's why it's so important not to compare your journey to anyone, because you're not all starting at the same point. And it's not just down to, okay, I can put this much time in or this much money into it. Everyone has different resources, and it's important just to know that your journey is uniquely your own. It's important to share that because that's what will inspire other people. But also Michelle from Within the Chaos Candle Co. is incredible. Cartier from Grace Marie Candles as well. And I'm just trying to think, I think there was one more, but their names escaped me. But yeah, there are a few that are on socials that you can follow just to be inspired, and just know that it's more than just posting about the products that you'll find on their accounts. It's very much them sharing their journey, like their personal journey, and how personal and how deep you go is very much like up to you. I'm not saying you have to tell everyone everything that's happening in your day and share everything about your life, but people are curious by nature. We want to peek behind the curtain and get to know you and get to understand your personality and your values before they'll part with their money to purchase your products.
And even like a funny way to like put it is, I don't know whether you've watched Shark Tank at all, but there's a lot of appeal to buy the products that have been on Shark Tank because you've seen the person pitching it and then they've done like, oh, I've seen that on Shark Tank. Like I heard their like spiel. I saw them at the beginning. So let's just put that smack bang into marketing. That goes a long way. People want to see your journey and they want to see you succeed and thrive and all that sort of fun stuff. But yes, thank you so much for your time. That is literally all I have.
No, you're so welcome, and thank you.
Yeah, of course. It's just been a fun time. I just want to say to like the listeners, thank you so much for joining. This is the third episode of Talk Small Business to Me. Just want to thank Kirsty again for her time. Make sure to find Candle Business Coach on socials. But yes, tune in for our next episode. Thank you for joining.